So you might know somebody with autism and they may come across as, you know, typically high functioning. We don't really use functioning labels, but that's typically what people would probably say, you know, you get around and make food and stuff. But there are things that you don't see, like hidden things that I really want to address. So I've kind of listed out 5 of the main issues that people on the autism spectrum who have low support needs kind of face challenges every single day, like these. So let's get into it. Guys, what's up? My name is Dan. I have autism and ADHD, and I make videos like this on autism every single week. So if you're new around here and you want to learn more, make sure to hit the subscribe button by clicking the notification bell down below, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, because I put videos on those platforms every single day. I love you guys. Okay, so going through my list, these are the things that I feel that autistic people don't present on the outside. These are things that affect them on the inside. And so much so that people forget that these are hidden issues that people with autism are struggling with every single day. Because you see someone on the autism spectrum and you kind of think, oh, well, they're, you know, doing fine, they're doing great, you know, they've got this career, they've got some kids and stuff, but there's loads of other things that are going on. So the first one I want to talk about here is fear. Now, autistic people are extremely fearful of busy places, holiday events, social events, gigs, anything that you go to as a, you know, going to a pub, right, for a meal could seem like a typical thing. But the fear of going to a pub for an autistic person is overwhelming because there are so many social interactions that may take place. There's so many choices that are outside of the comfort zone. You got to take into consideration sensory processing disorder, the smells, the texture, the heat, the type of chair you're sitting on, what you're going to wear, is it going to be cold outside, is it going to be warm inside. All of these things encompass difficulty for people on the autism spectrum to actually go out and do something, which is basically the fear of wanting to go out and do something. So the people who are on the autism spectrum who don't go out, it's because they're fearful. A lot of people would say that, you know, when I was growing up, people said, oh, come to this birthday party, you know, your best friend's having a birthday party, you're not going to come? And I'm like, oh, you know, I don't really want to go. And I was fearful of it, but instead of being fearful, it just thought you were arrogant or you didn't care about that person, which is kind of like, I can understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, it's like, come on, really? You can diss your friend because they're fearful of something? This is the stuff that people don't see, but it's very important. Fear is probably the number one and the most important one you've listened to in this whole video. Okay, so the next one, number 2, is anxiety. Crippling anxiety that may lead to burnout, shutdowns, and probably eventually a meltdown. Autistic individuals have so much anxiety, like they get anxious over the fact that they may have woken up early, they may be anxious that they've woken up late, anxious of what to eat today, anxious of what clothes to put on today, anxious of how they brush their teeth today. And there's a bunch of OCDs that come with autism and other types of stuff that will also create an anxiety for you doing anything in your typical day. So anxiety, again, is something that is not self or physically presenting. You can't just look over and say, like, that person's suffering with a lot of anxiety right now, but it's something that's happening on the inside, and eventually it could lead to burnout or shutdown or even a big meltdown, and that person could feel completely just like garbage, which is really, really interesting. And it's always good to remember, because if you're looking after an autistic person, these are the things that you kind of that are affecting them that you don't see, and because you don't see them, they're not at the forefront of your mind. You're kind of like they're the secondary idea. So always keep this at the forefront of your mind when dealing with an autistic person, that these things are going on inside as well. So just have a little bit more kind of like, I don't know, care, understanding for these things. Okay, so number 3 is GI issues or gastrointestinal issues, and this could be stuff like irritable bowel syndrome. You know, autistic individuals will suffer mainly from GI issues with like constipation or you know, irritable bowel syndrome, and you're having to go to the toilet a lot more or a lot less than other people, or feeling really uncomfortable and feeling bloated and all this kind of stuff. You know, it also depends on like the food you eat and how it affects you. And a lot of the autistic individuals do have Crohn's disease as well. So there are a bunch of different things that are going on there inside a body of an autistic person that you don't see on the outside, and you know, you probably wouldn't really think of. But having this knowledge, this predisposing knowledge of having that kind of like to help them feel a bit more comfortable in the environment will definitely go a long way and help leaps and bounds with that autistic person's needs. So with that, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about poo. Moving on, number 4, panic-based anger issues. Oh, literally, if I had $1 for every single time somebody thought I was angry, right, because I had anger management issues, I would be like a bazillionaire, because everyone would say that, like, oh, Dan, you know, you have anger management issues and you're an angry person. I'm not an angry person. This is issues that are resulting in self-harm a lot of the time, right? Because an autistic person will panic for a situation, which is basically come from fear, and then that panic will make that person go into fight or flight mode, which will then come across as anger, and this could come across as like self-harm by like hitting themselves in the head, or could lead to extreme depression or panic attacks in situations like that. And it's really interesting because people don't see that side of it. It's really interesting because they don't go, oh, you know, this person's autistic and they're struggling with fear. They just go, this person's autistic, but they're also dealing with some anger management issues, and this guy, you know, needs to calm down. And that's the worst thing. Imagine somebody's like freaking out because they're panicking about a life and death situation, and someone says, calm down, it's gonna be fine. I mean, it doesn't work, does it? You can never do that. So panic-based anger issues are something you have to be aware of. They're not anger management problems, they are fear problems. So you need to cap the fear, and then the anger will dissipate. Okay, so number 5 is executive function issues. Oh man, so having difficulties in life, like simple tasks. It could be cooking or washing clothes or even folding laundry, putting cups down on the side. Like you could just like try and put a bottle on the side of the table, and you could miss, or you could like drop it. You don't know the weight of the actual product. All of those things are issues that are coming from an executive function issue, right? But people don't see that, you know, the clumsiness and all that other stuff, and the difficulty to work washing machines and cookers. These are difficulties that autistic people face on a daily basis because their brains aren't working in the way that neurotypical people designed those things to be understood, which is a very interesting concept. So rather than someone being lazy or being silly or being clumsy, no, it's actually an issue called, you know, executive function issue. And so it's always good to remember that when you're dealing with an autistic person, so you don't feel like you're not alienating them, but you're not kind of saying that they're just being silly or stupid, that they're actually having an issue with that thing. I'd love to know your thoughts on all this stuff, and if you haven't already, download my free life hacks PDF book for autism at autismhacks.net. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.